It's all necessary with Tifani Sage.
Hey world, it is your host Tifani Sage. Thank you so much for coming back to another episode of It's All Necessary. This is a space where we are all reminded that every life situation, big or small, it's only to prepare us and propel us to our next phase in life. So it's all necessary. Before we get into this, please like, subscribe, leave your comments. I want to hear from you. And I am so excited and honored for my guest, Roger Briggs. All the applause. Bam. Roger was a hardworking flight attendant for 41 years. Let's see if I can say it in Spanish. 41 años.
Eso sí.
Ooh.
Yo entiendo más puede que hablar.
Oh, okay.
I understand more than I speak.
I think I'm the same.
Okay.
I'm the same.
Yeah, Spanglishy. You know what I mean?
And has also, in addition to that, has created wealth by way of real estate, and we love that. So, let's jump into this bad boy, shall we?
Everybody has to have a side hustle.
That part. All right, so let's start with childhood. Where are you from, and what was your fondest childhood memory?
Well, I was born in a little town in Iowa called Oskaloosa, Iowa.
Okay.
Native Indian tribal community back in the day, and only because my grandparents grew up there and my parents grew up there. And I was raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for the first 6 years of my life, and we moved to Boulder, Colorado thereafter.
Wow.
So I came from Iowa with nice Midwest values, and Colorado still nice Midwest values.
What would you say, if you can remember, your fondest childhood memory?
Well, I loved our home. We lived right below the Flatiron, so I would walk right out my door, and I would hike up the mountains, and the Flatirons are notorious. They're a symbol of Boulder, Colorado. And it gave me a touch of nature right away. You would see mule deer, of course, squirrels and skunks and rabbits and wildlife. And my fondest memory is like I get to walk outside of my home and look at nature.
I think that's to me, like, just hearing that, it feels like a sense of wealth that is not praised enough. Being, in that nature, being with the one and all that.
It's the simplest thing to really expect to see. You know what I mean? Every morning.
Yeah.
I think when you grow up in a rural area, and I think there's a mind and eye coordination that you get used to in that topography. That once you are removed from that, I think that it upsets your whole mindset.
Yeah.
And you always want and crave that environment. I have. I didn't crave the hills of Iowa and cornfields.
Yeah.
But I craved the mountains.
Which we are recording from Hollywood Hills.
And this is why I had to have this spot, because this, without the snow, reminds me of Colorado.
Yeah.
And that was a very impressionable part of my childhood. And it was hard for me to move away.
Yeah.
My mom told me at age 24, when are you going to move out? And I said, well, guess what, Mom? I got my first modeling gig at Winning GQ, and my agent wants me to move to Hollywood.
He's also a modeler.
So I packed everything up in my car, in my 73 Mustang, and I drove out here with $300 in my pocket. Like Mary Tyler Moore, you're going to make it after all. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I knew I didn't want to wait tables on Melrose, and went shopping back in the day at Cecil G of London in Beverly Hills, and this guy offered me a retail job. I worked there for a month, and then I had previously worked for Continental Airlines as a ticket agent for a short period of time in Denver, Colorado. And they called me back to work, and I started flying then.
Your life sounds like a movie.
So off I went, literally.
Who would you say maybe your top 2 role models growing up, and why?
Well, my grandparents had a picture of JFK on the wall. All the heroes back then, Martin Luther King, and I was born in 56. So when I was really paying attention, it was the early 60s.
Tifani Sage. I'm a confidence and clarity life coach. If you're feeling unfulfilled in your life or you don't know what's next for you, I'm your girl. I can take you to new levels of clarity. Click the link in my bio for a complimentary, yeah, I said it, complimentary call with me so we can get your life on track. Click the link so we can connect.
And I was a little bit sheltered and sequestered in Iowa and Colorado, but you see it on firsthand on TV.
Yeah.
And then I had older cousins that went away to Vietnam,
Wow.
and I saw that unfold.
Yeah.
And I really I was at the age where I wouldn't have to go, but the draft was still ongoing. So it really, it set the tone for me. I'm a little lost why I
That's
said
okay.
that.
But with JFK, what would you say, or Martin Luther King, or your
because
your cousins?
because I grew up as a middle child and I was a little bit chubby and I had Justin Bieber hair before Bieber had Bieber hair. You know, the hair started here and went over here because we didn't have hairstylists. Either you had a burr haircut or you let your hair grow like a hippie. So I let it grow like a hippie. Then I had bad skin, so I had to grow a beard. So I looked like Abe Lincoln, chubby.
Oh my god!
And I kind of sprouted up a little bit my junior year in high school. But as a middle child, I never felt accepted. I was a peacemaker, and I was chubby, so I never got to play with the cool kids. Nobody wanted me on their team. They wouldn't let me join Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. Good thing. And another talk show.
Yeah.
Anyway, another pod.
Oh my god!
Anyway, peel back the layers for a pod. You know,
So
the truth serum. Yeah, so JFK, they said, you know what? The civil rights are for everybody, whether you're black, white, red, this. And my grandmother was dark-skinned and dark-eyed. But she toiled outside in the garden, and she was a housemaker. But if you had darker skin back then as a white person, that you were lesser because you had to work.
But did the white people know like, oh, that's a white person, but their skin's darker, or they just thought that person was black?
Well, she always thought that she had American Native Indian descent.
Oh, got you. Okay.
But that was still frowned upon. But my grandmother scooped me up when my mother was not equipped to take care of somebody that couldn't fend for themselves or wasn't accepted. I call it free-range child rearing back in the 60s. Because I think my mom started to work later then. My dad was working 2 or 3 jobs trying to keep everything going. The atomic family, when you come back from World War II, the parents get on the hamster wheel and start. You have to have children. You have to buy a house, raise a family, and then you're trapped with parents that are probably not equipped and an older generation, like my grandmother. That's why I was always attracted to an older generation or two.
Yeah.
Because I got more attention and support. But my grandmother had a picture of that picture of JFK on the wall and Martin Luther King, and she was telling me about civil rights and what it meant. It's supposed to be for everybody in this country, no matter what you look like.
Shout out to your grandmother. That's so important.
Grandma Hoo Hoo.
Oh,
born in 1900, lived to be 99.
Oh my gosh.
So she passed away in 1999.
Oh my gosh.
That was another pivot point about I have to get my act together.
Oof. I want to remember that to dig into that.
This first year about my first property.
And you know what I'm noticing is that I guess I don't say turmoil, but when like the toughest time in your life or in a chapter of your life, what is the saying? It's like the sunshine, or it's like it's darkest at midnight, and then it starts to.
It's the darkest hour before dawn.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a lot of things happen to me as a child. Some really forbidden things.
Yeah.
That I developed a different type of personality. I became inward because
of those things.
Well, it's always a friend. It's always a friend of a friend.
Oh my gosh,
that does it. It's never a stranger.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you're here, Roger, and you like.
But that'll be the next talk show.
I know. I just want to say I love your personality. The moment that we met, I was like, oh, this guy, he has like lived many lives, and you have such like. You know, I don't know like your full story, but you have a light inside of you.
I think I had 2 vodka sodas in when I was chirping and chatting with you.
But you were still exuding light, and I was like, you're
Because that's
good
what
soul.
I like to go out there and see it.
Oh,
You know, I got to see the people and meet the people. I worked for an airline I always had a social connection with people.
Yeah, and then to cut that off would just be like insane.
Yeah, and I was a middle child, and I was socially inept at the time. And then I sprouted up and lost some weight. And then I started running in different circles and bicycling, and then I thought, oh, you can work this fat off.
Yeah.
You can stop eating those mashed potatoes that Mom puts there and all that macaroni and cheese. And Colorado is kind of a healthy lifestyle. And she got busy working all the time, so it's like, oh my God. And then we had this beautiful course called Bachelor Survival, which was home ec for when we had Bachelor Survival. So I was very inward as a child, and I could have graduated in my junior year of high school, but my mom said, you're going to stick with your classes, you're 18, da-da-da. So I took electives, and one was Bachelor Survival, and I learned about cooking.
Wow, I love that
sewing,
title.
and we never had that before. It was the first time in history that they taught something for guys, not dependent on anybody. But then I started thinking about, I really actually like being independent, not dependent.
Yeah.
Because I saw my parents, I felt like my mother was very codependent and needy and trapped. I felt my father was trapped by her. That's a whole different talk show.
Yeah. Okay. Last question in childhood. How has your upbringing shaped you for better or for worse?
Well, outside of the dysfunction, my brother and I always talk about this when we're 2 bottles in. We're going like, we're surprised that we made it out.
Wow.
Because coming up from a very caustic and verbally and physically abusive parenting, that we came out not chemically dependent or this, but we made it out to the other side because we knew that we could be better, and we had to seek support outside, whether it was from friends at school's parents, but you always kind of kept the secret.
Yeah.
My dad kept the peace, the best loving person. The mother, we just
kind of,
the
distance.
Always made excuses because never nice.
And so would you say with
But it shaped me a lot about that's who I don't want to be.
Got it. Okay. So you try to steer away, because sometimes I feel it's natural for someone to, I guess, act out how they were treated. But then I guess you have to decide, like, you know what? I don't want to repeat, or I don't want to create a generational curse or something.
Oh, no.
You know? Yeah.
That's another talk show, but my brother and I, we both came out sort of at the same time, but we said, we're not going to continue on this dysfunctional pattern. We're going to end it right here.
Yeah. And I like, you guys were intentional about it. Because sometimes if someone's not aware, or maybe they're too scurried into, just the mess, the hurt, the trauma, all of that, it takes a strong person to get above that and say, you know what? I want to lead a different life than, what I've been living.
And when I packed that 73 Mustang and I moved out here 44 years ago, October, I didn't have any prospects of a job, but I said, I'm just going to have to figure it out. You always, if you really have had enough of what you came from, there's only one way up.
Yeah.
It's one way out, and it's up and out.
Yeah. I'm happy. I'm proud of you.
And and it's little Selma, my neighbor lady that was like my mentor and my second mom. She told me the bird learns to fly when it's kicked out of the nest.
Ooh. Yeah.
And it's true.
And sometimes when that bird's kicked out, it doesn't land on its feet. You know what I mean?
But of course, this new generation, they're ill-equipped, they think. But you have to suck it up, and you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
If I could figure it out, I came out here with an older car, and I rented someone's couch for $150 a month. Now, granted, it was in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
But on noisy Olympic Boulevard and Rodeo Drive. But it's $150, and I used the front closet, and I drove that clunkety 73 Mustang everywhere, and I had some modeling pictures, my portfolio, and in between my flying, I would chase it, interviews and auditions. I lived below my means and delayed my gratification.
That's a big one.
And the delaying gratification is how you can create wealth.
This is good. This is
right?
going to be good. Yes.
You can create health.
Yeah.
And you will get to a point once you create your wealth You don't have to delay the gratification anymore
That.
because your
Wow.
wealth provides
What
now
you need. Yeah.
what you really need and want.
Yeah.
But you can't have it right now. The young kids come out here pursuing stardom or whatever, and they drive a BMW. They've had $30,000 worth of veneers with chiclet teeth. And they got all the fish lips and all the boobs and this or that. And they're paying $3,000 rent and driving the BMW. And I'm like,
What was
it's never gonna happen for them.
Yeah. How did you, in that moment, or I guess that first situation where you realize, like, I have a choice here, which we make many choices and decisions in one day. But do you remember what that felt like when you had to delay the gratification of said thing that you wanted to go after what you really wanted?
Well, I started working for the airlines, and then the money thing changed. And the first time in our family, I left the United States.
Okay.
I had a passport. Nobody in my family has a passport but me. So I had a chance to fly and go to all these international destinations, learn about all different cultures. And anything that I went and learned in college, and I love developmental psychology because most people that go into that field want to fix their family or fix themselves. When you realize, you know what, you can change yourself, but you can't change people.
Oh, yeah.
So, and but I love that was a learning tool. But the added plus was I learned more on the road and traveling to different countries and learning about different cultures and seeing the strife that other people have. And you come back to America and going like, not so bad.
Yeah.
Try a third world.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Put yourself in someone else's shoes for a day.
And then you'll
Yeah.
really...
I flew to Caracas, Venezuela during the disputes in the 80s, and then we finally pulled out from that route. But I used to take food from the airplane first because the dogs would be attacking you at the airport first. You give something, and then you leave some for the kids and the bus drivers. The food's going to be thrown away anyway.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about not even have the privilege of your next meal. So I always appreciated, even though I was not making a lot of money with the airlines, but I gained a lot back by living below my means, but I learned because I had a fulfillment of meeting new people and new cultures, and I was excited. And you're young and you're full of energy, and I would drag my portfolio with my 8x10 glass. I'm going to meet a movie producer that will not on a flight to Tulsa. But you know what? You never know.
Yeah.
But I just hauled my dreams around with me because you know what? The dreams were optimal. They could go in any direction, any time.
True.
Because I already knew where I came from. Anything was possible.
Oof.
I thought.
And, I mean,
Still is.
you manifested that.
Still is.
Yeah.
Even though I've had a lot of struggles, it'll be in Gone with the Wind times 10 books. I got more stories than Mother Goose in me. But it's never been easy.
Yeah.
But people think it should be easy. It's one in 1 million maybe happens like that.
Yeah.
The rest,
But
it's planting the seeds.
and social media doesn't make it any better because it just seems like, oh, I don't know, they had to do something for what, 1 week, a couple months, and bam. But it's like, it takes years.
Right.
Wow. All right. Let's move on to, so this section is called 100% necessary. It's an absolute need. So what would you say are 2 characteristics that you feel you needed to handle the journey of being a real estate investor / entrepreneur?
Well, you have to have tenacity. You have to really hunker down and accept that, especially my first property. And as Selma told me, and she never talked about her real estate and her investment because she had bought a duplex on a fluke. And can I tell that story? But she read it in the LA Times, $5,000 down to buy a duplex in Venice, California in 1946.
That's good. Yeah.
She didn't know what she was doing, but she said she needed to have something. And she could have, because as black people from Houston and they came back from the war, we couldn't find mainstream jobs. She was educated. She was going to become a school teacher, but the jobs were not there. So she told me about having a duplex and supplemental income, have your renter pay your mortgage, and you live in the better unit.
Yeah.
Then you move on from
that's
that.
smart. Yeah.
So I saw what was going on with my airline, And in 1983, 3 years in, we went bankrupt. And I said, oh, my God, here's a job I thought was going to be forever. Because I see automation. I see pocket tellers and ATMs coming up. Not really called that at the time, but I worked at a bank for 5 years. And I could see that coming up in the 70s. I said, well, that means they're going to be getting rid of the tellers at the banks. So I said, I got to find someplace that I have to be. Well, flight attendant is mandated by federal law. They need an X amount of flight attendants on each airplane. So I said, once you get seniority and hang on, you could have a pretty secure job. But unfortunately, I worked for an airline that went bankrupt twice in the 80s.
Dang.
And when I first tried to buy a property in the middle 80s, no bank would give me a loan. Continental Airlines employee. But I waited. I missed 2 dips, and I said, I'm just gonna hang on. I found a rent control apartment. I had seniority, and I waited for the opportunity. And you don't know when the opportunity. Sometimes the death of my grandmother and my brother said, when are you going to either move home to Colorado or buy something there? But we already have property here. So you need to get it together. And I said, I'm not moving back there. And I said, well, figure it out. And I said, I'm going to see what my options are. And I borrowed against my 401k, which follows Susie Orman's advice that you don't borrow against a 401k except for an investment. Real estate is an investment. So I borrowed $15,000. 6 was for closing costs, and 9 was down. First-time home buyer, FHA loan. So you only have to put 3% down.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, you have to afford your mortgage and PMI, which is primary mortgage insurance, because you put down so little you don't have any equity in there. So that's tagged onto it. You have to have money for your property taxes, and then you have to pay back that 401k loan.
Yeah.
I hunkered down, and 1999 was a pivotal point with Continental Airlines, and we weren't making a lot of money, but we were anticipating a contractual raise in our union negotiated contract. So I took the chance that we were going to make X amount of money if that contract passed. So I toughed it out. I bought the first condo, one building up from here, and I hunkered down, and the contract passed. So I went to making twice as much money. But then I flew twice as many hours.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to fix it up, and I planned on living in it. Until I met Selma, she said, well, honey, says, but I want you to have a rental property like we did, because that's the only way we could supplement our income and secure our future. So your airline could go away again. It went bankrupt twice. Well, that was 1999, 2000, and 9/11 hit.
Oh my gosh, it's like
my airline was jeopardized, and they closed my crew base here, and I had to commute to Newark. So now, I'm spending 5 hours to commute to Newark, but I refused to move to Newark. The other choice was Houston base, and I said I refused to give up my first property, and I hunkered down.
I want to say I really do like just reading in through what you said. One, when you said Selma came back and didn't know much about the real estate industry, but jumped into it. And I feel sometimes it's like, people should do your research and stuff, but I think there's no better thing than action, jumping into it. And then also to your patience, when you said you were ready to buy, but then you couldn't. And it's like those little things, act, but also be patient. I
had to wait for another window of opportunity. So time had gone past the first bankruptcy with Continental, and then we had a better reputation, and the banks changed their concept, their perception of the airline and security. So, but the first time FHA loan, if it wasn't for an FHA loan to get in, or military people and get the GI Bill, 0% down.
Dang, that's nuts.
So there are options, but you have to get
Explore
information.
Them. Yeah.
When somebody says no, you can't. I'm like, well, figure it out. There always is going to be a workaround.
Yeah, there's always a solution.
Yeah,
always a solution. 2 pieces of advice that you feel were necessary for your growth, and the growth could be anything. You as a person,
I would say that I like to. As Selma appreciated my friendship, and though she's like my mother's age, she said, honey, I want you to hang around younger people also, because younger people will keep you alive and keep you vibrant and interested. Just like you're my next door neighbor. You keep me alive. So I want you to be exposed to younger people, and I want you to be out there.
Yeah.
So even though you love your home, once I got this property here, my Zen Den, I didn't want to leave because my airline job took me away for 41 years, and I had no sense of community. I felt like I was always running away from my home.
What about...
I was only home for a couple of days at a time, and I had to pack up again. But when I came home, I was safe, secure. I got a good night's rest, and I would come out here on my Zen Den, and this is a completely remodel out here, but I had hundreds of plants out here. I got energy from that, and then I was ready to go back out there and go for it again.
Did you ever get a sense of community amongst the other flight attendants, or it wasn't like that?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a sense of community with Continental Airlines when we merged with United, and it was different airline cultures, and it was a hard merger.
I never
The
thought
people
about
were
that.
not accepting, and the job changed.
Okay.
And then we had the pandemic, and then the flying went away again. So once again, the money was compromised.
Yeah.
But the smartest thing I ever did to secure myself, as I always say, I always try to be a Selma.
Yeah.
I bought the duplex. I took the risk, and I sold it. She told me before, says, don't ever be attached to the home, even though your home is your castle. This and that. It's a stepping stone. Don't be attached. It's just stuff. It's going to create your wealth. What's going to create your wealth now is a rental property, because you're not living in it.
Yeah.
When you're living in your own property and you're not renting it out or even a portion of it, you're creating equity, but you're not creating wealth.
Yeah.
You can spread it out by buying and stepping up.
You're doing great, Roger.
You know,
All right. Last part of the 100% Necessary segment. 2 daily practices, personal or business, that helps you have a good day.
well, first and foremost, and I was one of those childs that a little messy. I never made my bed. I like to sleep, but the first thing I do in the morning is make that bed, because if nothing else unfolds in your day, you've achieved one thing, and you won't go back to bed.
That is true.
If you make that bed, you're not going to go back to that bed.
Periods.
That
And
is
I
so
feel
true.
that's a step in the right direction. I don't care if you're hungover or you've had too much lifestyle. That has to be done.
Yeah. It gives like a sense of like,
It sets your
I don't
tone,
know.
I think.
Yeah. Sets a tone.
Because once you start doing that, you'll become orderly for the rest of your day.
Yes.
And then the other thing I do, I don't turn on any talk shows. I turn on MSNBC because it's all about money. But now that and someone told me, and when I was a young little hippie boy in Colorado, I'm like, you can't live off of love. An older gentleman told me, said by someone who didn't have money.
Oh.
I said, oh, okay, you're right. And I learned from all the hippie and the love peace, flower children. Yeah, we're poor. Oh, like they can't live off of love. You need money.
Yeah.
Money can buy you happiness in other ways. Can't buy you internal happiness.
Right.
It'll buy you secure and safety. And those are the common human needs that every person wants. They want shelter and safety.
Yeah.
And money can do that for you.
Cha-ching. All right. So moving on to work and lifestyle. Alrighty. Lifestyle of being a flight attendant. What was that like? Well, you did mention that you felt like you were running away.
Exciting.
Okay.
It was exciting because first generation, I could send postcards. This is way before email. And I would send postcards from exotic destinations. Like I was based in Los Angeles, so we flew Nandi, Fiji, Guam, whatever. But Sydney, Australia.
Ah.
Yeah. So I flew with Continental Airlines, and we fly beautiful DC-10s. We lay over in Honolulu for 24 hours. I love that culture. I love the climate. Then we go 10 hours down under, arrive the next day in Sydney, Australia, and there's a big, beautiful harbor bridge and the opera house, and we like wild dogs in the street because that's the only day you have. And some of the senior girls I flew with, oh, well, I'm going to take a nap. I said, oh, no. Once you take a nap, you're not getting up. I said, okay. I said, oh, I always, my motto is always keep the train moving.
Keep the train moving.
Yep.
Wait, so when do you, so let's just say you land, let's say you land 10 a.m. and I guess your next shift is the next day.
Next day.
So you live it up that
Oh, yeah.
one day, and then you.
I keep going. I would go to the beach. I would get a little token. I'd ride the Sydney harbor ferries around and stop and have fish and chips at Doyle's, a famous restaurant that's been around for 80 years. And I would talk to some of the locals. And then I would crawl back to the hotel 9:30 or 10 o'clock and kaboom.
Yeah.
And I would have a beautiful rest and wake up the next morning and off we are back to Honolulu.
Ah.
And then 24-hour layover again and back to Los Angeles. And sometimes we'd have an Auckland, New Zealand trip. So, but a lot at that era, we had 11-day trips. And so your life had to be with your fellow crew members.
Okay. Were you, silly question, but were you ever able, or are flight attendants allowed, I can't even speak. What if there's something in this drink? Let me stop.
Just wine.
Are flight attendants allowed to take a little nap on the plane?
Back then, they didn't provide crew rest for us. So
But now,
sometimes we
maybe?
slept on the floor behind the back row of seats in coach.
Really?
Or we just stayed up and they tried to put a flashlight in our eyes, see if we closed our eyes or anything. But now it's mandatory. We have crew bunks upstairs. And it's
that's
fabulous.
good. Okay.
So we would
I always
get like
wondered that.
6 hours of crew rest
Okay.
from Los Angeles to Sydney nonstop. But that was my first exposure as a flight attendant. I got my first 3 years of flying. I got to fly Australia right away. Because usually you wait for years, but we had limited flying here, and I had the opportunity. I had to seize the opportunity always.
That
Risk. Take the risk.
I can see that in you.
Go.
Yeah.
Meet
just
the
go.
people.
Yeah.
I came from humble beginnings. I didn't want to go back. I wanted to keep going forward.
And would you say that definitely has given you a much better life? As
Yeah.
far as just go.
Even though I missed being home and I missed a lot of holidays with my
Okay,
relatives because I couldn't always get them off. But when you get 20 years seniority, and then I was in my mid-40s, and I started taking back a little bit of my life. But I knew that also a normal schedule of flight attendants couldn't be enough money to keep all the lights on. So I always flew extra trips for some of the senior
Wow.
flight attendants that didn't want to fly or they're in child rearing years and need to be home. So I would fly extra trips. So that would double my income.
Wow. Plus you have the rental thing going.
So I always kept that up because I had a retirement pension with the airline that was predicated on your highest 5 years of your last 10 years of flying. But I always felt like I was always flying those hours.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have given me this huge pension and the freedom to make the choice to walk away at age 65.
The freedom. Bam.
Right. Money buys you freedom to do what you want to do, not have to do. And flying changed after the pandemic. Flying changed after 9/11. I saw so much instability with the airline, but real estate is tried and true. They're making more people, but they're not making more land.
True.
And if you buy the property right, you finance it right, in the right places, you'll always have renters.
Bam. We could end right there,
That's
but we're
it.
not. So, number 2. Ooh.
I've never
I
had a
think I may
vacancy over
have.
there yet. One
That's
leaves,
amazing.
someone gets in,
Yeah.
I keep raising those rents. Now I'm making double the rents from 20 years ago.
Right.
$1,250 was the most I could get for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. Now I'm getting $2,570.
Get out.
Daddy needs new shoes.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Ralph Lauren.
What was I love you, Roger. What was the moment? I think I know it's already, but what was the moment that inspired you to get into real estate? Selma?
Selma
Okay.
was the catalyst.
Yeah, yeah.
When 9/11 hit, and she called that first morning, and she said, "Honey," says Arthur and I were going to open up some wine, and we're going to have to discuss what happened. Says we have to tell you about how we created wealth. I says your job's going to change. She was right, and she never talked to anybody
She
in
was
this
an
complex.
angel. She was an angel.
Yes, absolutely.
And such a good
So-
guiding light
Yeah.
for you.
And she didn't. She said, I'm going to miss you as a neighbor, but I'm telling you, if you buy a duplex and you rent the best unit out for the most money, live in the lesser unit, and borrow against that and buy another property, you'll never have to worry about that airline job again.
Yeah.
So that's why and that was a hard thing for me to leave the first property. But she said, honey, you don't get attached to your first property. But
I
got
could see
attached.
myself
But I got
getting
attached to
attached.
her.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's ironic. That's why I came back. I said, Selma, the only way I would come back here is to have the penthouse, because this is the best of all worlds here.
Yeah.
The compromise, I say, of a single family dwelling, because it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like a condo, but no matter where you live, it's your home.
Yeah.
But this is really what worked for my lifestyle, because I was planning for my future when I turn the key and retire. I want to be able to turn the key here and travel and not worry about anything.
Yeah.
Now I worry about the hummingbirds not having enough food and the squirrels not having peanuts and the plants. But you can have people take care of that.
Yeah. Oh, this
But-
is so lovely. The vibe is so good here. I feel.
Oh,
I
you
don't
just
know,
wait when it
this
gets a little bit darker, because you're going to
You
be
can see
able
the
to
stars?
see. You can see Cassiopeia and everything out there. I'm going to get a telescope, not to see the
I saw the
native-
binoculars.
Well, yeah, because I like to see all the animals, and the coyotes and the red-tailed hawks, and the owls will start hooting soon, and you
I
know.
love this. All right. Were there any lifestyle changes you had to make in the midst of being a flight attendant and then being a property renter?
Yeah, I had to make several lifestyle changes because of the airline went bankrupt, and we took a pay cut. So you get used to certain money. So I had to change rentals, should we say.
Yeah.
So I kept hopping from one rent control apartment after another in West Hollywood.
Okay.
So I lucked out I left that rental property in 1999 to buy the first property. But I left it, and it was 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1 block off of Santa Monica Boulevard for $575. Unheard of. So I went from $575 to my new mortgage at $1,500. That's the scariest thing I've ever done.
My God.
I still have nightmares like, did I forget to pay rent on that rent control
Oh,
apartment?
yeah.
But it was just noisy, and I didn't have parking. I mean, like this. But it was the cheapest place to live. But I knew I had to keep changing rental property, or someplace I could live below my means and get a roommate. Always get, even before Selma, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2 parking if you can.
Yeah.
Because if you have to have a renter. So I always kind of knew that. So my motto is always, when I bought property, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, parking. Because if you have to have a roommate, you can rent the other room.
Those are good
Not only just
guidelines,
duplexes, but even your own residence.
Yeah.
Because I've done that here to help out people. That extra money doesn't hurt.
Smart, and it's being creative too.
Yeah.
Creative and also preparing. So many good gems.
You have to be open to it. You can't be closed to this or that. You have to share space. You have to be a little bit more flexible. When I'm retired now, I don't have as much structure. If I rent, the person has to have some place to go to work, because otherwise it's too much on top of each other. You have to have a busy person
Yeah.
to share the space.
Oh.
You can't be
that's a
working
good-
from home and
that's another
hanging
one.
on.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than taking on a renter, making you feel uncomfortable in your own home.
Oh my God.
You
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah.
So there's no price. You can't put a price on
Peace
that.
of mind.
Yeah, that. And I don't really need to have a roommate here.
Last question in the working lifestyle. Ooh, what was the latest conversation that you've had personally or business wise that's resonating with you?
Well, I have a younger friend that I hang around with, and he has an older sponsor. But anyway, he has a friend that is guiding him to financial success. And I'm very intrigued about all these new apps that are starting to get on board with the technology, the changes in real estate. The recent vote, that cuts out the buyer's agent,
Oh shoot.
because it's never been a law that you pay 5% or 6%. And I tell you what, the commissions are out of control, especially for California prices and for everything that's kind of online. I feel that the real estate agents it's like robbery with the
Wait,
commissions
is this in
and
line
sales.
with the wholesaling kind of or not?
Yep. So there is
Okay.
a new app that's going to make a connection from the buyer and the seller and cutting out the middleman. But you keep a legal team and a few realtors involved within the app. And I'm very intrigued by that.
Okay.
But I don't want to discuss too much
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that, because that's his business and he wants to get that patented
Yeah.
and then sold. But I'm very intrigued now, because now my eyes are open to that.
Yeah.
Because AI is going to put us another And you have to get on board that bandwagon.
Yeah. Just like when you said earlier, like the ATMs are being installed and all these things. And it's like, hey, they're taking the people away,
Yeah.
the tellers. and
Yeah,
all
so I
that.
had to quit that job at the bank because I saw that coming.
Yeah.
But my job is never, it's going to be gone soon. This is the wave of the future. And I said, so I have to find some place to hang on. And once you're on a seniority list with the airlines and mandated by federal law, even though it's been crazy and upside down most of the times, I kept the job the longest, I think, that I ever expected.
Yeah.
And it created probably the most stability I'd probably ever have. A lot of my friends had jobs at Disney and real estate in the 80s and the 90s, and they've come and gone.
Yeah.
Because it's a feast of famine town here in Los Angeles. Real estate's forever.
You hear that, guys?
Yep.
All right. Moving on to Essence. What makes Roger happy?
Oh my God. Zendan,
Yes.
as you can see. Meeting new people. A little Sauv Blanc don't hurt.
To that part. And some good
But-
music.
Good music. I like music from the 60s and the 70s. I love old Hollywood classics. That makes me happier, probably more, not more than travel, but almost right up there.
Ooh, as you say travel, do you feel you are exhausted from it? Or you're like,
Yeah.
no, I could jump on a plane tomorrow?
I could.
Okay.
I went to Australia in February for
Ooh,
10
nice.
days.
Okay.
But now as a tourist.
Yeah.
And it's different when you're trying to squish your life in 24 hours each layover and being exhausted. But now going as a tourist, and I met wonderful Australians, and they've invited me into their homes, so I stay at their homes rather than a hotel.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different experience where you know the path around town and
Yeah.
you know the ins and outs. I have my Opal travel card in Sydney, and you can go on the rails and you go on the trains or the water taxis, the ferries around the harbors. It's fabulous. So yes, but the whole thing is I felt like I was running away from my life for 41 years by packing that bag. And right now, and then I went right from that to a 9-to-5 job with Ralph Lauren, and hardly any weekends off, and certainly no holidays off. And I said, "Oh, I can't do that because
It's
you,
like from
you can't
one
buy back
extreme
your
to
life.
another. Yeah.
You can't buy back your life." And I'm 68 yesterday, so you can't buy back the time.
Yeah.
So you can't put a price on that. That's one of the few things you can't buy back the time.
Yeah. What advice would you give anyone, young or old, as far as, because I feel like a while ago when you explained it, it is like from one extreme to the other. How would you say, I don't know, do what makes you happy in the moment, and then when it no longer does, just wait it out and then try something
when
else?
you're young, and this is why I paid attention to the older people, that you don't think you're going to get old, but you are going to get old, and you're going to have to start planning for that. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to take care of yourself. The government's not going to take care of you. Everybody thought they was. So Social Security is supposed to be just one little. Back in the day, it was the only path for people.
Yeah.
It was just to keep the people that got caught in the middle where they weren't offered pensions or couldn't create wealth. It should never be the end all for everybody.
That's some good stuff.
You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
going like I can't remember what we were doing about that.
Oh, like the word, I guess, like the word of wisdom that you.
Oh,
would
wisdom,
give.
yeah. So, yeah, you've got to hang around the older people and learn from them and pay attention to them, and you have to take the risks
Yeah.
that they took. And it takes a lot of patience and tenacity. Because trust me, when I bought the place in Bakersfield, I felt like that was a misstep, but I trusted my gut and I sold it within 6 months. I made $100,000, but the timing
Yeah.
is everything. If I would have waited a couple more years because I had this big, beautiful house there, what unfolded with the 2008 crash, boom, I would have been trapped up there forever, and I would have been very unhappy.
Yeah.
And commuting up to Bakersfield from Los Angeles International Airport.
What was it that
So,
you didn't so much like too much over there versus
well, you know
LA?
what? A house can't love you. A house isn't a home.
Yeah.
An apartment can be a home. A 1-bedroom condo or 2-bedroom condo can be a home. But a house, a big physical house. I always craved that because that's what I grew up in.
Yeah.
I wanted a house, but I was priced out in Los Angeles, so I had friends that had moved back to Bakersfield, where they were from, a flight attendant friend, and sold her duplex in Echo Park. And ironically, I ended up buying a duplex in Echo Park back in 2003 when it was the most dangerous area to buy. But I was priced out.
Yeah.
But I took the chance.
Take chances.
Yeah. And it was dangerous there. There was a drug cartel next door.
Shoot.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever hear anything like?
Oh, yeah, September 11th, 2003. Wouldn't you know? I'm going, what the hell's going on? Went out in my bathrobe, and I lived in the upper unit.
Not the bathrobe.
Oh, yeah. And then downstairs unit was a new and upcoming band, 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto. It was downstairs. I had no idea who he was. And then the guest house I used as my spare bedroom. And I went out there, and I see big black vests with guns, DEA.
What?
And they went like, go back in. I'm like,
oh my
what?
God.
I get my LA Times. I'm going like, so I said, I'm going to go out on the back porch there off the kitchen. I look, then there's a SWAT team back there.
Oh my gosh.
I called my realtor. I said, what have you done?
Yeah.
Why did I buy this duplex in there? I can't believe, why didn't I get Silver Lake? Well, because you were priced out, and Echo Park is the next property over. I said, this is a drug lord. This is slum. I said, I can't handle this. Well, just think of it this way. Now that there's a SWAT team and you're cleaning up the Mexican drug cartel next door, it'll all gentrify. I hung up and I said, oh, I'm going to have a drink.
Dang.
But guess what? It took about 10 years, but I left that property the next year.
Not being attached.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not being attached.
Yeah.
And that's what Selma said. Old man Brown died, and there's a penthouse here. It needs a lot of work. And it did. I had to redo everything. But I opened up the French doors, and I came out here, and I said, I'm home.
I wish I met Selma.
She loved meeting all of my friends. She loved coming over here because she had a lower unit, but she had an outside garden, so I would help her tend to her garden. And she even later in life, in her 90s, and I was still flying, and she went to see a penthouse over there, and her son found out about it. Said, Roger, did you lead her to buy a penthouse? And I said, no. She says, her caretaker took her up there. I had nothing to do with it, but she loves my penthouse. She says, my mom's having a level of dementia. You must know this by now. And I said, I know, but I didn't force her to do this. But she wanted that. So I wanted to know that she felt like this was her home too.
Yeah.
But I knew that her age, but I redid my kitchen 14 years ago, and she did hers, and everybody in this complex said, are you crazy, woman? And she was almost 80 then. She says, I don't care how long I get to enjoy it. It's my money, and I'm going to redo it. She always would follow my lead. I redid my kitchen, she redid her kitchen. If I redid the deck out here, she redid her outside garden.
2 peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Real estate.
So she brought peace to me, but she always says, honey, this is temporary. You don't make permanent decisions over temporary situations. Another beautiful quote from Selma. But I think that's a very key thing to tell a lot of people, because a lot of people overreact, and it's your reaction to situations, good and bad, that can cause a lot of collateral damage.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean?
That's a big one, yeah.
So even though you've got turmoil at home or bills, you just paid $6,000 in property, you don't have to tell everybody about the woes, because someone's got a lot worse, and they don't have a lot of empathy when you're driving a Mercedes and talking about that. So you don't talk about all this, even though it's stressful for you. You don't have to share that.
Yeah.
Because it kind of creates uneasiness.
Yeah,
maybe
that's fair.
Maybe disparity between. I'm certainly not the richest person in this town, but I've hung around richer people. But I'm stable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I live within my means now, but I look for opportunities. But the most important thing is people can't overreact or react. And I know in the past I've had knee-jerk reactions, but I followed my gut about the Bakersfield property. This is not for me.
Yeah.
And I ran back here. I followed my gut about not being happy over at the duplex right away and getting this property.
All right. So we're still in essence. What do you love most about yourself?
Oh God.
Just say it all.
I'm kind of low self-esteemer, but
no way.
Well, I love my hair and my teeth.
Yeah.
No, but I like my I think my genuine, authentic
Yeah, I
personality.
can feel that from you. Mm-hmm.
That I do like to dress up out of respect for the establishment and respect for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a point when I was a young child that I was dressed like the rest of the kids, and because I was chubby, I was putting cheap clothing because I would wear it out. And I have grown now since to appreciate dressing and dressing right.
Yeah.
Because first impressions to people.
Yeah.
And setting the tone about yourself and commanding respect.
That when you said the establishment, like for the
bars and restaurants.
Oh, got you. Okay.
That's out of respect of the bar. Okay. Like some people come in with flip flops and this and that.
And it's like, what do you? Yeah.
Not appropriate.
No, like get out
at all. So I know you don't have to dress up for Boulevard Steak where I like to go, or Steak 48 or anything. But I mean, you can't wear a baseball cap at certain places. No shorts after 5 at Wally's in Beverly Hills. So you know what? I like to set the tone, but I like to elevate, and that's one of the things that I do like about myself, that I have a sense of style.
Remember when I met you, I was like, you were wearing the Ralph Lauren, no, the polo or something, but it was nice and colorful.
Well, you know, that's all I wear is Ralph Lauren.
Oh, okay. And
wardrobe.
I was like, I love your shirt, and you're like, oh, don't tell anyone I got it from like the women's department because
I had that beautiful royal blue one.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I had my white shawl collar silk jacket, I think.
You look good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Ooh, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think, to tell you the truth, I wish I would have created a better self-esteem earlier.
Okay.
But out of survival, I created a persona that was approachable to older people. And I paid attention to older TV shows because it seemed like the older people were left out then. So I kind of got lost with that generation because I didn't have enough self-esteem to be around my peers.
Oh, wow.
So I wish if I had more self-esteem and self-respect as a younger child, but then there's the yin and the yang of it. I'm going like, I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't have learned so much for someone older. If I just hang around someone, as Selma used to tell me, says, don't hang around too many people your own age because they're just as dumb as you.
Like, what can they really tell you? Yeah,
you can learn from living experience, not from your own peers.
Yeah.
But I wish that I had. The thing is, I wish that I had maybe a counselor or someone that would. I wish I had a parent that maybe nurtured me a little bit more to have more self-respect and self-esteem.
Got it.
That maybe I wouldn't have been in compromising positions that I had as an adolescent. That also kind of, I think, affected me emotionally.
It was like a domino effect a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. All right. So we made it to the last segment. The fun and like short and spicy ones. What's your favorite word?
Live.
Oh, I love that.
Not life, but live.
Live. What's your favorite vacation destination?
Sydney, Australia.
Bam. And then to end it out, what's your ultimate life motto?
Plan for tomorrow, but live for today.
Bam.
You're not promised a wake-up call.
Oh my gosh. That is so like...
I just made that up.
I know. That is so,
put that on a napkin, we'll make millions.
That is so in line with like you're traveling and all that.
It could be all over tomorrow.
Dang it.
But you want to plan for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Financially, emotionally, and spiritually, everything. But you got to live in the moment. You have to be a little bit more spontaneous.
Yeah.
I used to be, I have to check in at this hour and fly at this, and this is structure and this or that. But I know life on the outside world of the airlines is not like that. So when people cancel, now if there's a pattern of behavior when people cancel, then you know what, it's the better deal.
Yeah.
But you know what, you have to be more spontaneous about, I was going to do this. Well, then so-and-so offered me, let's meet there. So you know what, I'll go. Be open to it because it may lead to something else. Or a new person.
That. I will never forget my godmother.
Get you out of your comfort zone.
That part. My godmother, Auntie Barbara in the UK, I remember when I was visiting her, she had like a little sign in the kitchen and it said, "Leave room for the fairies to dance in the garden." And I'm like, that is so, fitting.
You have to keep the door open for any opportunity and any person.
That.
I don't wait to get my friends together to go to this place. If I want to go to a bar or restaurant and have fun, as you know, I go to the Abbey. I'll go by myself.
Mm-hmm. You live.
I can make my own fun. And if not, I don't want to meet anybody. I just people watch.
Yeah.
Because I just love being out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know I come home to a safe environment. I can sit here and twiddle my thumbs and watch Netflix and binge and Sex in the City and go until the cows come. We'll open another bottle of wine. But I don't drink at home alone. That's my policy. Never drink at home alone.
Why?
I think it's a depressant.
Oh, shoot.
I think it's alcoholic behavior.
Okay.
So I always had that. I think that my mom told me a long time, she didn't say much about anything. The only person you're going to meet at a bar is an alcoholic. I said, thanks, Mom.
Oh.
She was a non-drinker.
Uh-huh.
But she was an eater. So anyway, there's another talk show. Dysfunction Junction. So anyway, I just never got that habit. And I'm glad that that's always in my mind about, you don't sit there and have a glass of wine at sunset by yourself? I said, are you kidding me? That's crack or crazy. I wouldn't do that. I'll have lemonade, have water and everything, but I will not drink at home alone. I would rather go out and spend $15 on a drink than drink
it alone.
a $15 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
At home alone. Because I think that's a bad pattern.
True.
To be in.
That is true. I could see that, how it could, a bad little spiral, or like a bad day turns into.
Yeah, like you go home, like, I have to make myself a gin and tonic. And there's nobody around. I say, no. I think it's a bad way to live.
Yeah. Well,
whatever.
Roger Briggs, thank you so much
well,
for
as I
this.
say, tip it.
Woo.